Hi everyone, my name is Dillon Gonzalez. I'm the editorial director of GeekVibesNation.com and also a co-host of the Home Dance Film Festival podcast. And welcome to a brand new episode of No Streaming Required, your weekly deep dive into all the latest and greatest in the world of physical media. Welcome back. We have another fantastic show for you this week. We are talking about some of my favorite labels, including Crocodile, Radiance Films, Sony, Warner Brothers. We got some mainstream titles, got some very obscure titles. We got documentaries. I have so many things I'm excited to dig into. As always, I will try to get into everything as much as possible on here. But if you need even more of a deep dive, I'll be doing a written review of most of these on GeekVibesNation.com within a week or so of this episode being published live. So check that out if you want a more thorough overview. But for now, I'm going to dig into one of my most anticipated titles of this week. That is the 25th anniversary of Dr. Seuss's How the Grinch Stole Christmas on 4K Ultra HD from Universal. Now, a lot of people do not like this movie. They do not like the live action version of The Grinch from director Ron Howard. But I am a defender of this movie. I actually really love this movie. I saw it back in theaters 25 years ago, and I've been a fan ever since. And even like on my rewatches in the past couple of years, I watched it twice, and I think in the last 5 years before this viewing, I still loved it, and it makes me laugh a lot. I love Jim Carrey's physicality in this role, and just some of the humor in there just really still cracks me up even after multiple viewings. And it's I'm a big Christmas person. You may notice my Christmas sweater. I love the season, and this is a perfect complement to getting me into that mood. And yeah, I was glad to see it get a new 4K release for the 25th anniversary. I had the previous 4K. I picked that up a few years ago. But that original 4K, it only had HDR10. It didn't have Dolby Vision, which this now has. And now this one has Dolby Atmos. I believe the previous release had DTS:X. In terms of the audio, there's not like a ton of difference. It's still immersive, and you really get a good sense of Whoville and the feature at large in terms of the implementation of height channels and how that expands out pretty naturally while kind of preserving the natural soundscape of this film. But the video portion is a little bit different. And it's not like dramatically different, but the Dolby Vision, I think, does enhance things pretty well. This is boasts as a new remaster, and things are finessed and changed and stuff. I don't think it's a complete overhaul from like the original camera negative or anything. But I think the colors are finessed a little bit and maybe a little bit bolder. But I didn't have a huge problem with that original 4K, but I thought it looked really nice. But I think things looked even better on this 25th anniversary remaster, and it looks really nice in Dolby Vision. So just to get that re-release with this kind of minor enhancements, I think is I'm glad that Universal has been doing that with some of their older titles. Maybe if you have the older 4K, you might not be jumping to upgrade right away. I don't think it's a night and day difference by any means. But if you don't have it yet, I think it's definitely worth it to get this new 4K. I do like this, the green instead of the black 4K coloring. But the audio-visual differences aren't the only thing that are different. It carries over all of the archival special features like an audio commentary and featurettes and a music video and deleted scenes and stuff. But there's also a new 35-minute retrospective with some of the cast and creative team. No Jim Carrey, but you get director Ron Howard, producer Brian Grazer, Cindy Lou Who herself, Taylor Momsen. You get some good interviews to kind of reflect on the process of making this movie and its legacy and everything. And I think that's a very nice addition that they just didn't re-release this just with minor video enhancements. They actually put in new special features as well for fans. There is a steelbook version of this available if you're interested, but I do like how the slipcover looks for the standard edition. So if it's an important part of your holiday season as well, I think it is worth to get this 25th anniversary edition of The Grinch. I think it's so funny, and it still holds up, and this is a nice 4K from Universal. Sticking on with lighter fare, we're heading over to Disney and their Blu-ray release of Freakier Friday, the sequel to Freaky Friday, with Lindsay Lohan and Jamie Lee Curtis returning. You got a Blu-ray and DVD in here. There is no 4K version of this available, unfortunately. It kind of breaks my heart, but you do get this Blu-ray version. Whenever I heard that this sequel was being made, I wasn't really for it. I'm not really for unnecessary sequels that Disney seems to be obsessed with as of late. But I tried to view it on its own terms whenever I was watching it, and I was actually pleasantly surprised. I think it is basically a rehash of the first one, but now you got even more people body swapping. You got Lindsay Lohan and Jamie Lee Curtis's characters. They are swapping bodies with these two younger characters, one of which is Lindsay Lohan's daughter, and one of which is a potential stepdaughter that is coming into the picture. And then hijinks ensue. It is not as seamless as the first movie in terms of the mannerisms between like each performance, like mirroring how like the body swapping thing would work. But it still generally provides a fun time, and I was pretty impressed by the younger actresses kind of taking on some of the more emotional stuff that especially happened later in the film. But the older actresses, Lohan and Curtis, they definitely went all out, and it was very silly. Maybe not a complete replication of what the younger characters would have been acting like in their bodies, but it's still a fun time overall. I especially liked Vanessa Bayer's appearance as kind of the psychic medium that kind of helps facilitate this whole thing. I think it kind of helped them not get into some touchy kind of racial stereotypes that the first one delved in this time. But she was hilarious. A lot of the supporting characters are hilarious. There's a lot of fan service in here, and not even just with Freaky Friday. Other Lindsay Lohan properties are kind of referenced in various ways, which I won't spoil here, but I don't think they overdid it, and this movie doesn't hold a torch to the original Freaky Friday. I think that one's a really special version of the movie in terms of nailing the humor and the heart of everything. But in terms of if we're going to have a sequel, this one held up pretty well. I found myself enjoying it. I wasn't hating life, so that's a positive. But I was pleasantly surprised by this. So if you hold the first movie as in a very special place in your heart, don't be completely afraid to visit this new version. I don't think they ruined the original or anything. They just tried to do something again and kind of like just rehash things, make things a little bit more modern. But mainly they kept the spirit of things, and it overall worked out well. Like I said, I wish this had gotten a 4K release. The Blu-ray does look nice though, just in HD, DTS 7.1 sound. Everything looks really nice, and it sounds great as well. Not as immersive as an Atmos track or like as dazzling as a Dolby Vision track would have been like in 4K. But I'll take what I can get, and glad to have watched this one. And I actually rewatched the first Freaky Friday like the night before to kind of prepare for this one. And I really wish that Disney would re-release that one on 4K, because it has a little bit of a dated look to it, and I think it could be improved with a 4K remaster. In terms of the supplements on this one, there are just a couple of featurettes, some deleted scenes, music videos and stuff, but mostly kind of like nostalgic, like look backs of like to the first movie and like how they progressed to this movie and stuff. So nothing like too meaty, but overall a couple of featurettes to kind of flesh things out. So Freakier Friday, if you're a fan of the franchise, it's a decent watch, and I think you'll have fun with it. And then moving on into a different direction, a 4K upgrade from G-Kids is the Giant Monster Tale, Shin Godzilla, a movie that I actually had not seen up until now. I just kind of missed out on these the Japanese, more modern Japanese movies. This is a steelbook version. I really like how this kind of unfolds. I think that's pretty cool. 3-disc set, a 4K disc, Blu-ray disc, and a bonus disc of special features. I'll take this out so you can kind of see the underneath. Shin Godzilla, it's like I said, I'd never seen it. It's really interesting to watch this and compare it to how kind of the American versions of Godzilla have treated the character. This one is much like, you get a lot less of the big man himself. I mean, even the American version kind of skimps on him sometime. But this is very much a kind of a political drama with occasional forays into like monster destruction. So you get a lot of like government meetings and stuff about how to handle the Godzilla situation. There's a very pointed takedown of just like government bureaucracy and the ineffectualness of certain institutions and everything, that I think that movie handles pretty well. And I was still engaged in the human drama whenever we didn't see Godzilla on screen. Because when we did see a Godzilla on screen, the special effects were pretty lacking. They're very digitally, and like, of course, we're not doing practical Godzilla. We haven't done that in a while. But even by modern like standards, around the time this was released in like 2016, I believe. This is a lower budget movie, but the special effects are pretty rough. There are some moments that don't look as bad, but I think it's charming. Like, I know there wasn't a lot put into this. I mean, it's not like a indie movie, but they just didn't have the resources of like certain other productions that can kind of finesse things a little bit more. And taking it for what it is, I think it's a fun movie. It's a solid Godzilla entry. I think more casual fans of just like outright destruction and chaos and everything will be disappointed by this entry. But if you like to kind of engage with Godzilla beyond a surface level involvement, Shin Godzilla is a good entry for fans of the titular creature. I've never owned this before, so I'm not exactly sure how it compares. I know this one has been remastered and kind of tweaked in certain ways, and it's in HDR10 with a lot of the Godzilla. Like, I reviewed Godzilla versus Biollante from the Criterion Collection. I said there that the HDR grade wasn't super aggressive. That is true of Shin Godzilla as well. So the HDR10, there is HDR here, but it's very subtle. And I think the way it's captured, I think it still looks very nice. But just don't expect like a eye-popping HDR grade for this one. DTS 3.1, I believe that's in a 5.1 container, but just standard 3.1 is what the original sound is for this. And it sounds good and effective for what it is. You do get a making of documentary, you get some deleted scenes, you get outtakes, you get a lot of good stuff here, special features wise. I know on the Godzilla shop there was, I'm not sure if there still is, if it's sold out and gone forever, I don't know. But there was a version that had another disc that included the black and white version of this movie. This wide retail version of it does not have the black and white version, if you're interested. But you do have the film in 4K and a really good amount of special features. If you're interested, it is a good release from G-Kids. For a first-time watch, very pleased with this and very excited to catch up with even more of modern Japanese Godzilla, because I know a lot of people love like -1 and everything. I've yet to see it, but I will be seeing it as soon as possible. And if there's any more, I've heard rumors of sequels to Shin Godzilla, so if there's any of those, I'll be lined up for that as well. Now, by far, my biggest release of the week is from Sony and their epic 9-film collection of Luc Besson films. So this is the Luc Besson 9-film collection, where we have Le Dernier Combat. Apologies for my pronunciation. Subway, The Big Blue, La Femme Nikita, Atlantis, Leon the Professional, The Fifth Element, the Messenger, The Story of Joan of Arc, and Angel A. And I'll show all those off. So you can kind of, this comes with like a removable J card that I'll show off. You kind of get all the details and stuff for everything that I'll kind of talk about here in a second. No digital copy from what I could find. No, there wasn't in mine at least. And it's not listed on the package. So I'll give you a full look at the sides. You can get all the films, get a little bit of representation. I've talked about La Femme Nikita on the show before when the 4K from Sony came out, I believe last year. And I really enjoyed that disc, so I was excited to upgrade a lot of my Luc Besson movies to 4K, and then a lot of these are new to Blu-ray in the US. And then the 4K upgrades, there are differences that I'll kind of go through. I don't have time to go through the story of all of these movies, but just to say, Luc Besson is an interesting filmmaker. He tackles a lot of like a sprawling array of material. I guess it's important to note that while most of these films are in 4K, there are 3 films that are Blu-ray only, I think due to how the materials worked out and how they could be rendered. But his debut here, it's only on Blu-ray. But a lot of his films take a more like kind of fantastical bent. They're like his film I was just showing off. It's more of a post-apocalyptic tale with a little bit of levity, unexpected levity, and then stuff like Subway. You got a bit of crime and romance in here. You've got assassins in certain movies. You got, or in several of his movies, you got scientific, like sci-fi storylines going on. You've got historical epics, just some bizarre stuff like here, The Big Blue, some a little bit of surrealism. There's a lot of stuff going on here. And I need to point out that this film has 2 cuts, and one of my criticisms of this package is there are actually 4 discs here, and there are stacked discs. So I'll kind of show off the disc underneath. The way these come, the 4K discs were stacked on top of each other, and the Blu-ray discs were stacked on top of each other, which is unacceptable to me because 4K discs are so sensitive. I switched the package so that the 4K discs are on the bottom and the Blu-ray discs are on top, since there's a little bit more of that scratch-resistant coating on the Blu-ray disc. But I wish this had just been a simple like swing case with 4 individual hubs. So that is one of my knocks against this. This happens again on another movie that I'll show off here. But luckily, most of these are kept to 2 discs, and we don't have that problem. There's just, I believe, one other film that has that issue. We got La Femme Nikita here, the one that I talked about previously. And the only difference with this particular disc, this one has Dolby Vision and all the original language, like the previous disc, but this now has special features where the previous release did not. But I was in, like, this kind of encompasses pretty much in order all of the like first 9 movies of Besson's career. So you get a really good chunk of like his prime work. And this is an anomaly because this is actually a documentary. So that's like even more variety within this set. But I was like, while not all the movies are like a 10 out of 10 or anything, I think The Professional is my favorite of his. But especially The Professional and The Fifth Element and stuff are absolute classics. And I enjoyed getting to discover Subway especially. But I didn't find any of these to be outright bad or anything. Most of them were good to great. So I was really glad to see Sony go through this. So starting with his first movie, that is presented without special features, but you do have the original. Well, you don't even really need the audio track for that one because there's like basically no dialogue except for just like 2 words that are uttered. But there's a 5.0 and a 2.0 version of that audio track for La Combat Dernier. This is the other release that has stacked disc. So the 4K disc is on its own here, and then you have, and I can't remember how this came, if it was on top of a Blu-ray disc, but you got a Blu-ray disc here, and I think it was stacked, unfortunately. And then you got a bonus disc, which I put under, I made sure the Blu-ray discs were together, so the 4K disc could be on its own here. So just make sure you're checking, if you get your set, make sure you're checking for scratch disc, and make sure to not wait too long before viewing these, because I did notice whenever I was checking out my disc that some of them did have like smudges and scratches from packing and everything, like just like fingerprint smudges from people like packing the disc, which was crazy, but most of them wiped off and everything, and none of my discs had any issues with playback, thankfully. But just be aware of just like how potentially perilous playing these discs can be if you don't kind of inspect your disc and make sure they're free of damage. But going back to the discs themselves and what each of them have, so like I said, the first movie has no special features. Moving on to Subway, that one is in Dolby Vision from a 4K restoration, and it looks really great. And it has a French and English in 2.0. I stuck with the original French. It sounded great. It looks really nice. I didn't notice any encoding anomalies or anything. And just to go back to La Combat Dernier, that one looked really nice, and it's original black and white and everything. It looks really great. But Subway in 4K looks really great with the Dolby Vision and everything. It includes an 80-minute documentary and over 100 minutes of interviews. Big Blue, as I mentioned, that one does have 2 different cuts of the film, and one is nearly 3 hours long. But I'm glad that Sony took the care to provide each film or each cut of the film in Dolby Vision, and that has the 2.0 audio, and it looks and sounds great. Really dazzling looking film that I think was made for 4K, and I was really glad to see that released. You get a 95-minute documentary and over 2 hours and 20 minutes of interviews. La Femme Nikita, as I mentioned, it has the same Dolby Vision presentation as last year. Nothing looks supremely different. You get the 5.1 and 2.0 audio in French and English, and you now get a making of featurette and 110 minutes of interviews. Atlantis, that's a Blu-ray release, the documentary. That one looks really nice in Blu-ray. I can understand. I mean, it would have looked really nice in 4K, but I assume that the material just didn't lend itself to it. But you get 5.1 and 2.0 audio options, but no special features for that one. For Leon the Professional, you get 2 different cuts of that movie via seamless branching. You get an Atmos track and a 5.1 track. The previous 4K that was released by Sony, that did not have Dolby Vision. This does now have Dolby Vision. You do get Dolby Vision. I do not have that the previous releases of this or The Fifth Element to kind of compare how the Dolby Vision enhances things or changes things from that previous 4K. But based on my previous experience with Sony 4K upgrades, it's usually, once again, not a night and day difference, but usually it's a subtle refinement that makes things look a marginal amount better, but any improvements is always welcome. So if you are a fan of Dolby Vision, you can now see Leon the Professional in Dolby Vision. No new special features, but a good amount of special features from previously, including an 80 minutes worth of interviews and several different featurettes. Fifth Element also getting its Dolby Vision debut. It was previously out on 4K. As I mentioned, I did not have that disc to compare, but you get Dolby Vision, Atmos track, and a 5.1 track. Video and sound wise, it looks and sounds great. I have heard that there is an overseas 4K release of The Fifth Element that may use a different master that some say they feel is superior. I'm not really sure how this one compares to the previous 4K or that overseas release, but I can say that I thought it looked very nice, and the color timing I think looked good. But I think others will probably chime in if they think there's an overseas alternative that they think is better. But I think this Sony release of The Fifth Element with Dolby Vision does look very good. You get a making of featurette and other various featurettes that I really enjoyed. The Messenger, the story of Joan of Arc, 2 cuts of the film via seamless branching in Dolby Vision with Atmos and 5.1 audio options. Everything looks and sounds really good. The Atmos track it expands things out pretty naturally. It's not like a aggressive Atmos mix, but I think it expands things out tastefully, and it sounds really good. The Dolby Vision looks really nice, and the encodes holds up pretty well. Lots of great textures unleashed within this movie. Maybe not the most historically accurate movie, but it's a lot of fun. I found it to be a really visually enjoyable watch. For this, you get an 88-minute documentary, tons of interviews and featurettes. And then finally, we're going back to Blu-ray with Angel A. It looks really nice, and it's black and white with 5.1 audio. Very impressed with how this looks. You only get a making of featurette, but it's better than nothing. So overall, you can see here like how this kind of like opens up here at a tilted angle here. All the slip covers have a different color and everything, and they all just kind of fit together quite nicely in this box. So if you're a fan of even half these movies, I think it's worth it. Or if I've seen a couple and you enjoyed it, but others might be discoveries, I think there's a lot of gems in here waiting to be discovered beyond the more so internationally known. Maybe not the most like controversy-free director, I will admit. He's maybe not my favorite person, but as a filmmaker, I do enjoy his movies, and I was really glad to check out this box set. If you're a fan, definitely worth the investment, in my opinion. Now, heading over to one of my favorite labels, we have the newest from Deaf Crocodile. We are entering new territory for them with their release of the double feature of Alraune, and take away this J card, and you have the Student of Prague here. It's a double feature, and I say that we're going into new territory because this is their first foray into silent era cinema. So we have 2 silent films from Heinrich Galeen. As Deaf Crocodile tends to do, they have chosen things that have more of a genre bias, even within this kind of silent era framework. I'll do my best to kind of explain these movies, but they're better experienced than explained. But Alraune, I'm going to get a little risque here. It's kind of almost like a Frankenstein-esque tale in which there's a mad scientist who takes a plant that a mandrake that is said to be made from the semen of a hanged man that like kind of like falls onto the ground and grows a plant underneath, and then that plant is is impregnated into a woman, and then the spawn that results from this demon seed within this woman is our woman, our titular woman here, who grows up and kind of starts to drive men mad, and she doesn't really know her origins, and she kind of starts, like, weird things start to happen, and she kind of starts to figure out more about where she came from, the secrets of her father, who is very inappropriate to her, if he was actually her father, and just there's all kinds of like weird messed up dynamics and like darkness within this, but it's an interesting, especially from our lead actress. She does a really great job of like being very mysterious, and kind of haunting and creepy, but also tragic, because she can't really help of her origins and how she's been raised and everything. So there's a lot going on there. And then we go over to The Student of Prague, the other movie that was actually a few years before this. And it's a classic like deal with the devil scenario, in which like a less well-off individual is trying to change his status around. He makes a deal with the devil, and little does he know, the price of what he is given is his basically his reflection in a mirror, and it's like his doppelganger who steps out of the mirror and starts wreaking havoc and kind of getting him into trouble, and just really like careful what you wish for territory of just like you think you want like riches and all your dreams to come true, but what may actually happen, it may turn into a nightmare. So that's kind of the general gist of things. Each of these very interesting, both very long. They're both about 2 hours 10 minutes plus. So strap in for a fairly lengthy journey, but it is well worth it. Maybe a little bit tedious in moments, but overall I did enjoy them, and I'm glad to see Deaf Crocodile expanding into this area, and I'm know that they have more silent era cinema coming in, I think 2026, if not later this year, and just so I trust their curation more than pretty much any label. So if they deem it worthy of putting out on their label, I will devour it, and very excited to do so. This was a collaboration with the Film Museum in Germany. That's not the complete title of the facility, but I don't want to butcher the rest of it, but I'll just call it the Film Museum. It's through restorations that they conducted, and they look really, really nice within the framework of knowing the limitations of this material. Anyone who's familiar with silent era cinema, I've talked about it a lot on this channel, you're rarely going to get something that is flawless, even like, because these films are right around 100 years old, just like shy of a few years. And you're going to get a lot of like, a lot of the material just didn't exist in its complete framework with like one reel. So there's a deeper like explanation of where each film like got its sources from. So there's like some like intertitles pulled from one like print, and then you get like an Italian print or something, or a Spanish print that had almost everything except like a few reels or something. So there's like different sources that kind of are brought together to get the most complete version of these movies in the best version possible. But you still get dropped frames, some nicks and scratches, and like just general like damage. But these have been mitigated as much as possible. And like I said, these are silent era films. You kind of go in expecting that. And I think these look really good, considering that it's probably they probably would have been lost to the sands of time otherwise, if this German institute hadn't went through the efforts of trying to restore this. And they've done a really, really good job doing so. The scores that come with it, they complement things very well. They sound nice and clear. There's no damage on that front because that is much, much newer. But the combination of video and sound, I think, works together very well, and overall provides a very pleasant experience, as long as you have the right expectations. And you get a commentary track for each movie. You get a 90-minute interview with the institution, like the head of the institution that helped do these restorations. You get an excerpt from a third movie of the director of these two movies, Heinrich Gallien, as an actor in this third movie, and you can kind of get like a 15-minute excerpt of that, just to kind of give a little bit more context to this filmmaker and like all of the facets of his personality. So Deaf Crocodile, they definitely put in the work in terms of special features and making sure the encoding of these masters were executed to the best of their ability through the fidelity and motion encoding. No complaints here. If you like silent era cinema, especially kind of weird silent era cinema, definitely get this this double feature here. I actually think the deluxe edition might be sold out everywhere. I'm pretty sure it is on the Deaf Crocodile website, and if it is, and you want this, I would check around to some of the boutique retailers like Diabolic and stuff to see if maybe they have a few copies remaining. But act fast if you want the deluxe edition. But otherwise, you'll just get the standard edition here. And this is just a cautionary tale. If you do like deluxe editions, they have been selling out more quickly with every Deaf Crocodile title. So make sure to jump in early to avoid disappointment. Because I'm glad I got mine. It looks great. Love the artwork, and everything inside is equally as great. So Alraune and the Student of Prague, this Heinrich Gallien double feature, well worth your money. Heading over to a release from Wolf Video. This is a re-release of a 1985. This originally came out on Blu-ray in 2018. This is now being re-released as a burned manufactured on-demand disc. So if you have a player that doesn't work well with burned disc, just know this is burned. But 1985 is a movie that is a holiday movie. It's about a man who are 20-something who comes home for Christmas in 1985 to his family, his mom, dad, and brother. And what they don't know is he is a closeted gay man. And he's kind of been going through a lot. I don't want to spoil the plot, but a lot of this is him dealing with his family, dealing with like them not knowing, him kind of hiding aspects of himself, hiding other deeper secrets that supersede like even just being like a gay man. And kind of reconnecting with old friends that he's kind of let fallen by the wayside. There's a lot of stuff going on here because he comes from more of a religious conservative family. But he's also forms like a really nice connection with his younger brother, who he can kind of tell may also be a young gay kid that's probably way too scared to ever even like kind of mention or consider that, even with his own brother. But I really like how this movie kind of handles, like, it is some really stressful and kind of darker thematic material, but there's also a lot of moments of like real beauty within the storytelling and just like heartfelt moments. And your heart will be broken with this. But overall, I think the journey is really one that is well worth taking. There's Corey Michael Smith plays the lead. He does a really, really great job in this. You got Virginia Madsen and Michael Chiklis as the parents. They also do a really good job. And Jamie Chung plays one of his old high school friend that he reconnects with. Is great seeing her as well. So really great cast, really emotional story, and it's told very well and sensitively in black and white. So really nice kind of evocative style. So you don't get the full effect of like a traditional holiday like Christmas movie with like bright lights or anything, because it is black and white. But you still get like Christmas dinner and like decorations and stuff. So if you want kind of more of a somber holiday tale, 1985 is worth checking out. This looks really good on Blu-ray. No major compression issues. The contrast is solid. You don't get a lot of black crush, no blown highlights. You get the original short film this was based on as special features, but otherwise no major special features. But overall, yeah, if this sounds interesting to you, 1985 is worth checking out. Heading over to my first of two music-centric documentaries, the first of which is from Gravitas Ventures. It is A Song for You, the Austin City Limits story. I really like this documentary. It kind of looks at like the first 40 years of Austin City Limits. This is another burn disc, unfortunately. The public access show based out of Austin, Texas, with musical performances, and this kind of goes over its like entire history from its early origins, and like with like starting out with Willie Nelson on the first show all the way to its like 40th anniversary year, and kind of them reflecting back on where they've come from. You get interviews with people who have been producers from the like very beginning, and how they kind of talk about how the show has evolved from like different shooting locations, like different studios and stuff. And then you also get interviews from artists from throughout the decades, from like more newer artists towards more of the originals, like Lyle Lovett and Willie Nelson. You get Beck, Merle Haggard. You got so many people like featured either through archival footage, like musical performances, which I love a lot of the clips that they included, or just newer interviews that have been collected throughout. So many, this is just heaven to me. I love music. I love music documentaries. I've seen a lot of the people on this documentary live. But even like those that are new to me that maybe I haven't seen before, didn't know, just seeing kind of different clips and hearing their thoughts, it's everything I want. And if you're a music nerd, definitely like A Song for You, the Austin City Limits story. Looks really nice on Blu-ray. There's an array of different footage, this being a documentary from several different decades. But all the footage seems to look as good as possible. Sound-wise, DTS 5.1 sounds really good. What you want for these musical performances. You don't get any special features besides a trailer. But if this sounds like a fun time to you, I don't think you'll be disappointed. This Austin City Limits documentary, great time. My next music documentary, I don't know the music nearly as much as the last documentary, but I was still intrigued by this one. From Lightyear Entertainment, we got Harley Flanagan, Wired for Chaos. This is about one of the founders of the hardcore band the Cro-Mags. Now, don't ask me to go deep on Cro-Mags because I have never heard them prior to this documentary. I'm not quite a hardcore fan, but I do appreciate a good music documentary even when I don't necessarily love the music. And Harley Flanagan, he has lived one hell of a life. He has been treated very poorly since birth. He's went through. I just want to issue a trigger warning. There's a lot of like very tough subject matter broached within this one in terms of like sexual abuse and like drug abuse and all kinds of stuff going on here, and how he tried his best to kind of get through some of these like traumas that have plagued him over his life. He's went through very intense bouts with like wrestling with the ramifications of some of the things he's went through, and he's trying to make a better life for himself and like form his own family. And this isn't a strictly documentary about the Cro-Mags. It is about Harley Flanagan, and like you get to see some of his early bands like before that, and just his story. Fascinating, harrowing, but really very much a tough watch. So if you're into that, if you're into some like a story that might make you cringe, might make you gasp, but is nonetheless fascinating, Wired for Chaos, this Harley Flanagan story, definitely worth checking out. And this Blu-ray, this documentary, it holds together as well as possible in terms of the footage. There's some kind of rougher archival footage, but everything looks pretty good in terms of like the newer interviews. Everything very pleasing. This one does have a good amount of special features. You get over 70 minutes of additional features like interviews and stuff. You get some really good interviews on here, including Flea, Henry Rollins, Ice-T randomly, Michael Imperioli from The Sopranos. A lot of great like interview, like if you can kind of see here some of the people, but Anthony Bourdain before he passed. But you get tons of special features like additional extended interviews and stuff, and different featurettes and live performances and everything. So a lot of your entertainment. I usually like what they put out in terms of their packages, and this is no different. So Harley Flanagan, Wired for Chaos, definitely worth checking out. If you're a fan of hardcore music, but even if you're just a fan of music documentaries, still very fascinating. Next up, we have another amazing label. They don't have a lot of releases under their belt, but every one of them has been great. Our newest from Celluloid Dreams, we have the crime kind of giallo movie, mostly crime. A Hyena in the Safe. You can kind of see the alternate original title on the back of this exclusive slipcover at their website. So you can only get this slipcover from their website. Otherwise, you will just get this standard version of the artwork here. You also get some art cards and stuff from the website. If that also are really nice and big. So there, kind of see that. So this film, I found it to be very entertaining. It's very, very simple. You got six people, six criminals who committed a heist, who have come together after months of laying low to collect their loot. They have brought their keys to unlock this vault that includes their riches. But when they get there, things immediately start going awry whenever one guy can't find his key. And then things spiral out of control in terms of people turning on each other. People start turning up dead in very creative ways. It's a really enjoyable, twisted time. You got a woman with a crazy hairstyle where she like ties her hair underneath her chin. There's all kinds of stuff going on. But I had a blast with this one. It's a very entertaining movie. And it's not overly long either, but it maintains its pace very well. So you get a little bit of time with each character. You're going to get to know them, but you know that ultimately most of them will not make it out of here alive. If that sounds like a good time to you, I think you'll be very pleased. This comes from a restoration that has been supplied to Celluloid Dreams, conducted by a studio. I know that at least their first two releases, I think, were meticulously restored by Celluloid Dreams themselves. And they are hard at work at very exciting releases for the future. But this one was provided to them, but it holds up very well. And I didn't notice any major nicks or scratches. The color timing seems to be pretty stable, maybe a little bit of like minor fluctuation due to the original materials, but everything holds pretty like it seems to be very cohesive in terms of its appearance. And then the audio is the original audio track. There's no English dub or anything. And then, so it looks good, sounds really good as well. You do get a commentary track from the head of Celluloid Dreams. You get a 51-minute interview piece with the director and some other creatives. You get a video essay and more. A Hyena in the Safe. It's a blast. If you love crime films, this one's a good one. Some really creative death scenes. Very much worth checking out. A Hyena in the Safe from Celluloid Dreams. Love what they put out. Let's keep it going with the beloved labels. We're going over to my dearest Radiance Films and their release of the Greek film The Ogre of Athens. This is a film about a man. There is a notorious criminal around the city that conveniently looks a lot like this kind of like nondescript, boring man. And then he suddenly finds himself mistaken for this notorious criminal. And how his life kind of spirals out of control after being mistaken for the Ogre of Athens, which it doesn't exactly seem to translate to that in the movie, but we'll go with the Ogre of Athens because that's what the package says. But how he kind of like falls into this kind of gang like underworld at a nightclub, and it might not go exactly how you expect it to, so I don't want to spoil things. But it's very interesting, very character driven. It's not overly violent, and just seeing how men interact with one another and the difference between like the real criminals and our main character, and how he begins to kind of adapt to the lifestyle when he's kind of immersed into it. It's very interesting how everything kind of evolves. Really, really good movie. And glad to have it on Blu-ray from Radiance Films. This comes from an HD transfer that looks really nice. I think everything holds together really well. No major nicks or scratches or anything. I didn't notice any major flaws at all. And there is a intro to this from the author like Jonathan Franzen, who did like Freedom and everything. I think he's won like a Pulitzer Prize. That was very surprising, but he actually talked about how he mentioned this movie in one of his novels. So I was just shocked that they kind of like that this very well-known author would show up on this Blu-ray release, but he did, and it's cool. And you get other interviews and stuff in terms of the special features, but The Ogre of Athens, worth checking out. If you like Radiance's curation up until this point, I don't think you'll be disappointed. This is a really interesting one. And another one from Radiance that I like even more because now I got 3 times the fun in the triple feature Wicked Games, the 3 films by Robert Hossein. Probably mispronouncing that, but it happens. So here you got 3 films that I will go through here. The first of which is The Wicked Go to Hell, which is about 2 convicts who escape and kind of abscond with a woman who they kind of start to bond with against her will, and how they kind of like that kind of eventually spirals out. And then Nude in a White Car, which I really liked. It's a really kind of almost Hitchcockian movie about a man who one night is out for a walk. He kind of gets lured in to a car, has sex with a woman without ever seeing her face. He just knows she's a blonde woman. He goes to track this woman down, and he comes across a house where 2 women live, one of which is in a wheelchair, and he's trying to figure out the exact truth of who he was with that night while forming new relationships with both of these women, and it's kind of very twisty and stuff. And then finally we got Taste of Violence, and this is about a group of men who kidnap the daughter of a very important person and kind of hold her for political ransom, and in order to kind of get get an upper hand on their political aspirations of what they want for their country. It's really good as well. Each of these are very good and very good set. There wasn't a weak choice in the bunch, but I do think Nude in a White Car is my favorite of these three. Each of them are very entertaining. Each of them have been given 2K restorations from Gaumont, and they look really, really good. There, I think, was some minor color correction from Radiance Films, I believe, on The Taste of Violence. But overall, these transfers from Gaumont look really good. No major nicks, scratches, no DNR. Everything seems to be handled with the proper amount of care, because you still get film grain and all that good stuff. Each film gets a commentary track. You get featurettes, you get interviews, you get a visual essay. Radiance Films continues to knock it out of the park. I love this set a lot. They always kill it, and this is just another example of just them just continuing to impress. Going to close out the episode with some Warner titles, the first of which, going over to the world of television, we have season 8 of Rick and Morty, the Adult Swim hit series. I've talked about this show before, but it's been hit or miss over the last few years, but I always enjoy catching up with it. Season 8, I think, was one of the stronger seasons as of late. Not all episodes, I don't think any of them really hit like the greatness of the earlier seasons, but overall it's a pretty strong batting average. And I think especially the finale, which really gets into some emotional territory, it might probably rival some of the best of what Rick and Morty has put out. There are a few kind of lesser episodes. The Easter episode, while I love Jerry, isn't the strongest one, but some of the stuff with like the Space Beth, and there's like some like James Gunn, Zack Snyder stuff on one of the episodes that I don't think completely works, but it's amusing enough. It seems more like a Family Guy gag. I like how this season kind of evolves, and kind of it does extend certain storylines. It kind of like circles back to things that maybe we haven't seen in a while. But overall, I think it's a strong season of television, and if you like Rick and Morty, it still has some juice in it, and it's a lot of fun. It looks good on Blu-ray. It's nice, crisp HD. Sounds good as well. You get a inside season 8 featurette. No other major episodes, but if you're a Rick and Morty fan, which I still am, and I did not plan this, I promise, but I conveniently wore my Rick and Morty Christmas sweatshirt today, and so very convenient timing on my part. So I'm a fan. If you're a fan, check out season 8. Really good presentation, and still makes me laugh. My next 3 titles I'm going to go through pretty quickly, because I've covered most of these on the show, some of them pretty recently, and these are just re-releases from the Warner Archive and like multi-film collections. So the first one we have here, we have The Great Doris Day with Billy Rose's Jumbo, Love Me or Leave Me, Romance on the High Seas, and Lullaby of Broadway. So I have written reviews for these on Geek Vibes Nation of all of these titles, so you can check those out. I love Doris Day. There's some really good funny stuff in here. There's some musical things. There's some circus fun with Jumbo, Billy Rose's Jumbo. Romance, all kinds of stuff in here. But if you're a Doris Day fan, you can now own 4 really, really great films from the Warner Archive with great audio-visual presentations, and some really cool archival supplements on some of these with a reduced price, some really affordable packaging, shelf-friendly, all kind of stuff. So Doris Day Collection, make sure to check that one out. My next multi-film collection is from Gene Kelly, and we have An American in Paris, For Me and My Gal, The Pirate, and Singing in the Rain, one of the best movies of all time. My only downside to this is that Singing in the Rain actually has a 4K disc out from Warner Brothers that is fantastic. So if you're a real fan of that film, you might want to get the 4K release of that. But if you just need kind of a quick hit of Gene Kelly, this has a lot of his best movies. You get 2 Judy Garland movies here, and just 2 all-time classics here. I hope An American in Paris hopefully gets a 4K at some point. But all these, they're great. We got 2 mainline Warner releases and then 2 Warner Archive releases. So check out, if you like Gene Kelly, great musical collection here to get you started off, and well worth your money. And then finally, for something a little bit more hard-scrabble, we got the great James Cagney, old Jimmy Cagney, with mostly gangster films with The Public Enemy, Angels with Dirty Faces, and White Heat. But then we also got a musical, Yankee Doodle Dandy. So good smattering of hits from him, and he's one of the best. I love Jimmy Cagney, and once again, we got 2 Warner Archive titles and then 2 mainline Warner Art titles. Maybe some of these will get a 4K someday. I don't know. But for now, these are good presentations with, once again, affordable pricing, shelf-friendly packaging. So make sure to check it out if you're a fan of old school Hollywood. But finally, we have our Best Picture winner from 1975. All-time classic, One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, starring the great Jack Nicholson and a very impressive ensemble, an early appearance from Danny DeVito. We have Christopher Lloyd. We've got just so many people here. Brad Dourif in a very important early role for him before he would move on to the Chucky fame. All-time classic movie. Jack Nicholson in a mental institution, very much disrupting the flow of normalcy within this institution with his kind of rebel attitude, how that manifests, how it impacts everyone, how it maybe leads to some tragic consequences. It's one of the best movies, just full stop. I love it. I first saw it like probably 7 or 8 years ago at my local art house theater with my wife. So seeing it on the big screen was an amazing experience. And watching it again on 4K, very different experience just because that print, fantastic seeing it on the big screen. It did have a lot of like damage and stuff to it. Seeing this new 4K restoration was like a revelation. I'd never owned this on any format previously, but I know that people really rag on the Blu-ray and say it looked pretty atrocious. I think it was an ancient VC1 encode. It had a lot of processing and everything. It just looked, from what I can seen online, it looked very, very bad. This new 4K restoration is, I think, a beauty. In HDR10, you have a 5.1 track and the original audio, which I think is just carried over from a like very early home video release, because I think the original actual mono elements have been lost. But they made an attempt to provide the original soundtrack in its best version possible. But the remastered 5.1 track also sounds good and doesn't seem overly changed to kind of suit modern standards. But looks really great, sounds good. You get 2 new retrospectives that aren't super long. They're like 10 to 15 minutes long. You get the full 86-minute documentary on the making of this. And some deleted scenes. Not all the deleted scenes are apparently carried over. There are a few missing, and this is missing a previous commentary track. So if you have a previous Blu-ray with those, make sure to hold on to that. Maybe you can kind of Frankenstein it into one package with this. just on a pure audio visual perspective, this is the way to go. So there's also a steelbook version, which also doesn't have the best cover art, but what's important is the presentation itself, and Warner Brothers done a really nice job with that. So if you're a fan of this movie, which you should be, One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, terrific movie, and a really great presentation from Warner Brothers. They've done a really nice job with this. So that's my show. I hope you have found something that interests you. If so, let me know what I talked about that piqued your interest the most. What you are planning to add to your Christmas list. What are you asking for? Share this with anyone that you know loves physical media, or you want to get into physical media. There's a lot of titles in here that I think would be good for newcomers. Make sure you like this, subscribe to the Geek Vibes Nation YouTube channel. Anything and everything, any kind of support really helps. I appreciate those who tune in every week and engage with me. You are the best. I will be back again next week with a brand new slate of titles. But until next time, enjoy these movies.